This is Amrita Bradley. I'm the creator of Breaking Boxes, and today I'd like to introduce to you Jasmine Pritchard. So, hey Jazz, how you doing?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, no, I love having you. Jazz and I have been doing some work together recently, so I'm so excited to be able to introduce her. Jazz, tell us a bit about you. Who are you? What do you do? And what makes you special?
Sure. My name's Jasmine. I am a personalized health and epigenetics coach. Um, that's a bit of a mouthful. To explain a little bit, so epigenetics is essentially the study of how the outside affects our inside. So how the outside lifestyle affects us, and that's epigenetics. And yeah, I've been doing this for about 5 years. And before that, I was an exercise physiologist. So that's my training and background is in exphys. Essentially, again, that's a bit of a mouthful for people who don't know what exercise physiology is. It's a 4-year degree, and what we do is we learn about how exercise affects the body, essentially. So the kinds of people that would come in would be like someone with diabetes or a chronic health condition. We'd actually give them exercises that we're treating them and their condition, and give them like appropriate evidence-based kind of exercise. And yeah, so that's my background. I did that for 6 years.
Yeah. So, what the jump to epigenetics from being an exercise physiologist? What's the go there?
Yeah, so I actually discovered the epigenetics and this program that I use through exphys. So through that profession, we have to do like personal and professional development. So I was lucky enough to be scrolling through, what to do. And I was a bit sick of doing like shoulder rehab and knee rehab. And I was like, I saw this opportunity to do epigenetics and health coaching or motivational coaching. I was like, oh, that sounds like exactly what I want to do. So yeah, I went to this professional development. It was a 1-day course, and I just completely fell in love with it. I had this experience of being like, everybody needs to know this. Every health professional, like the way that we could treat and offer our clients and our patients would just completely change once we have it be personalized. Really
Change?
personal.
What do you mean with change, Jazz? What are we talking about here?
We'd have more effective treatment. People would be more satisfied as well. What I found is a lot of clients would come in to see health professionals, and they might leave because they're unsatisfied, often because we treat, and I will put myself into this, I would treat my clients almost like how I would want to be treated. And you'd think that's a great thing, but when you start to see how individual and unique people are, you can actually start tailoring your motivation, the way that you speak, what people really need and want to feel satisfied and have a great experience, and get results that are actually going to be for them, since we're all
Jazz, the interesting thing I find about all this really is that when I sort of I'm going to turn myself when I started to take responsibility for myself, right? So that point where you sort of realize that maybe your diet and your lifestyle isn't going to lead you to a really good path, and it's time to start really looking and going, are these the best choices? Yeah, that sort of realization. And at that point, I'm looking around thinking, okay, well, I need to shed a few kilos and a few other bits and pieces. But here's the thing, is that at the time when I was looking for these programs, and I'm talking about, even just a couple of years ago, is that all the programs were basically built for, I don't know, Mr. and Mrs. Joe Average. And not that I think that I'm anything special, but I also know that I'm not Mr. and Mrs. Joe Average. I'm not, what they call reference man and reference woman, who is, 5 foot something and weighs this amount and has, 2.5 children and, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm going, look, this is great. I'm glad these people have got some results, but I want you to look at me, what makes me tick. I want you to look at my individualness, that my challenges, because look, I'm sure I've got a lot of things in common with other people.
Yes.
But they're not me.
Yes, you've hit the nail on the head. This is exactly what people come back with. It's like, okay, it worked for them. That's great for them. But what works for me
For me,
what is going to work for me? It's brilliant. You've said it exactly how it is.
So when I heard about your services,
yeah,
I'm just like, oh, where have you been all my life, Jazz? Like, why am I only just finding this? Why could I not find you earlier? Why did I not know about this? I knew about epigenetics, because I've got a bit of a science background as well.
yeah,
And so I knew it was a thing. I knew what it was about, but I didn't know there was anybody implementing epigenetics into an individual service.
yes, brilliant. And what makes what I'm up to really quite special as well, it's not just epigenetics, because epigenetics is also like a science in itself. So it's becoming more and more well known, as you said, like about it. And the platform that I use is not just using epigenetics, so how our lifestyle affects our genes, but it actually takes into account so many other different areas of science, brings them all together, layers them on top of each other, and gives you this completely personalized, almost like a handbook or a health handbook. It's like, this is for you.
And I'm happy to share a little bit about the work that we've been doing together, Jazz, because I'm a bit of an open book. So in saying that,
Sure.
Jazz is working with me through 9 sessions, and the coaching involves. It was quite an extensive questionnaire. I was quite surprised that initially I just thought, just measure your neck, measure your arm, measure your, whatever else. But there was a few individual things that I thought, ooh, how is that getting information? Like, what's with measuring your finger and your foot? That sort of thing. So
Yes.
talk to me about these individual measurements that you take and how they play into it all.
Yeah, great. Well, like you mentioned, one of the studies of science is called anthropometry, which is circumferences. So you take like your neck like this, and there's a lot of data out there. And yeah, doing those measurements actually gives you so much information on how this person performed in the womb, what kind of hormones are going on. It's just like, and disease risk, and all of that kind of thing. So that's one part of it. And so there's 15 measurements that I take on the body. And then it's followed up with 75 health questionnaires, which ranges from everything from like your finger length. So say if you look at your fingers and put them up, and you have a look at your index finger and your ring finger, this actually tells you a little bit about your testosterone levels. And
my finger.
Say what?
Through my finger, you can tell testosterone levels through my finger.
Yeah, when you were in the womb, so how you developed, and that will indicate how you are now, essentially.
Is that just not totally amazing? That just blows my mind, seriously.
Yeah. And the best part is that there's so much of these like studies out there, right? And this is something, as like a scientist, I used to see this, used to have all these scientific studies and papers, and you're like, oh, that's such a great fact. But when you take it in isolation, it's not particularly useful. But when you combine it with like 75 questions, all of this different sciences, and bring it into one, what you get is just amazing.
So this is going to be quite interesting for me, because previously I've been able to, I don't want to use the word hide behind, but it was a pretty handy excuse to sit there and go, yeah, look, I did this program and it was great for 3 months, and then life got in the way and all the rest of it, right? Yep. So I had some achievement through doing this diet or that lifestyle change or whatever. Yep. But there's no hiding from this, right? There is no saying that, this is for the population and it doesn't include me because, right? ...
Yes.
This is me. This is about me and nobody else. So sure. Like, some of the information that I've gotten from Jazz about myself is that, like, this is the, best time to eat. This is how much sleep you need, and I'll tell you what, the most interesting about this thing, Jazz, is that Jazz was able to pin my personality and my challenges down to an absolute T, where I'm reading statements about myself that aren't general. They are very much like, yeah, that's me. Yep, that's me. Yeah, that is also me. Okay, yes. To be aware of. But like, I love that the program. I want to talk a bit about the program, Jazz. So the program that Jazz actually coaches through is called PE360. Huge online community, Facebook, support groups, all that sort of thing, which is really great. And also, Jez will tell us a whole heap more about P360, but it's different. It's different because if it says, not to eat a food or to sleep at this time, or this is how much activity you need, it gives you the reason why. It doesn't just say, hey, do this. It doesn't say just do this. So there was a couple of big surprises for me. I love eating kale, thinking that, hey, kale's a superfood. But for me at this point in time, and it doesn't mean it won't change later, but at this point in time, kale is not something I should be eating. So I'm just like, oh, that's a bit of a surprise.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's so brilliant. This is so great when when we find out these foods or these things that we have been told by society, or we're just conditioned, or it's just, common knowledge. Kale's a superfood. It's green. How could it be bad for you? It's really incredible. Kale's not the only one. There's some other foods for certain.
Yeah, lay some on me. What other foods? What are common things that people think are good for them but may not genetically match?
Yeah, it's great. So, for example, certain part of like certain health types. Health type is we split the wheel into like 6 health types, but everyone is completely unique essentially. There's a part of the health type that we call the mesomorph, who are a bit like shorter in stature, usually quite muscular, love a challenge. These kinds of humans, they often don't do so great with red foods. For example, like tomato, and this isn't always 100% of the time. It's just it's quite common in these kinds of individuals. So tomato, like capsicum, peppers, that kind of thing, isn't always so great. And if you sort of swing on to another part of the health type circle, which I would love to go into a bit more detail, some people don't do so great on like, it's kind of obvious, but like sugar. Nobody does so great on sugar, but certain people, like say carbs, like if you ate like a potato, it would have a very different effect in their body, which you could almost be inclined to say it's almost like poison to them, whereas someone else, their body could actually utilize the potato like really well. So the interesting thing is one man's food is actually another man's poison.
Yeah. So like the way that, if I eat, kale,
Yes.
even though generally speaking, it's been, touted as a superfood and everyone should be, consuming lots of it. For me, that's actually not a good food right now with what's going on in my body.
That's right.
Yeah. Amazing, right?
It is.
So just part of my journey, has sort of been understanding the broad science of, body types. So, the standard endomorph, mesomorph. But what's really interesting that I found is that there's another layer of personality to this that I didn't know about. And this is really interesting because knowing these characteristics about myself, and some of them, I'll probably say most of them I already knew, but then having them go, this is where you are likely to struggle and this is how you might be able to overcome it, and understanding that is going to make this journey so much more successful. So let's have a look at, I'm going to share my screen. Let's have a look at this wheel that Jaz sent me earlier. And there we go. Share that. Okay. So you should be able to see on the screen now the pH 360 wheel. And go for it, Jaz. Tell me about this.
All right, so let's move on to the endomorph, which is the right side of the wheel. So our like pure endomorph is what we consider, or we call the guardian, represented by the bear. So really, bigger humans, really nurturing, cuddly. If you've ever, remember those people where you're just like, gosh, you give such great hugs. They're really just, they can be your endomorphs. An example would be like Oprah. Yes, these people are usually a bit bigger, hold more fat and muscle tissue. And from a personality point of view, and this is really interesting how nature always balances things out. So these are the biggest humans, right? So you have a bear. Their personality is really nurturing and it's all about the other. And it's caring, and they're usually a lot sort of, I want to say slower in nature, but calm, calm kind of life, just like one foot in front of the other kind of thing, just kind of works for them. And then with the endomorphs, we've got the diplomat, which is a combo of the endomorph and ectomorph. They still have a lot in common with, they just have a lot of endomorphic traits. But the diplomats are represented by the buffalo. Another representation that I often use is the cruise ship. So a cruise ship, a great way of thinking about this is that it's really try turn a cruise ship around. If you've ever been on a cruise ship, it takes like an hour, maybe even longer, to turn it around. So an example would just be diplomats aren't always great at quick changes. They like a lot of time and space. And yeah, I actually am a diplomat, so I fall into this category as well. Okay. All right. And then let's go to the ectomorph. So we've got the pure ectomorph, which is the sensor. And this individual is represented by the bird. So these individuals, from a body point of view, are very slender, kind of the people that you could sometimes think that you could just break. If you look at their wrists, they're really slender, their necks, their body frame is just a lot smaller. And personality-wise, when we're really, when our bodies are fragile or could easily break, how nature has worked this is that their neurosystem is really well developed. So rather than, you know, being strong and be able to fight off people, they use their brains to stay safe, essentially. So their neurosystem is really often wired. So these people can be very, what would I say? They're very organized. You'll find them in professions like accounting or things that, or in sciences, things that take a lot of brain power, essentially. And they like organization. I have a lot of friends who are sensors, love them. And then we go over to the crusader. So this is represented, so this is between a mesomorph and an ectomorph, represented by a horse or a stallion. These individuals are often leaders. So they lead the way in, like, you could find them often in like CEO positions, leadership positions. They also are on the early chronotype as well as the activators and the connectors. So this is like the early side. Didn't actually mention that, but on the other side, it's more the night owls, guardians, diplomats. So yeah, the crusaders, leaders, personality-wise, they're actually kind of like the average human. So this is often where lots of our health advice, actually, crusaders really fall into it. So, you know, an average of carbs, meats, veggies, 5 meals a day, the 9 to 5 work hour kind of suits them quite well. Yeah, that's the crusader. All right, mesomorph. So our pure mesomorph is the activator, and then we also have the connector, which falls into the mesomorph with certain endomorphic traits. So what the activator looks like body-wise is they're shorter in stature, shorter muscles, shorter bones, often PTs you'll find as activators. And it's represented by the lioness or the tiger. So they're quite, if you think about a lioness and a tiger, they've got sort of like an aggression about them. They're ready to take things on. They'll, what I find really interesting is, like, if you surprised an activator, you can look at their feet or their toes and they'll dig into the sand kind of thing. They'll be ready to like strike back. So this is the mesomorph activator. And what else about them? So yeah, their predominant hormone is adrenaline. So these people love a challenge. They love to jump into things. They're early birds, so you'll find them up early, getting things done. And then, yeah, so that's the activator. And then we move on to the connector, which is quite similar, but these humans are a little bit more robust because they've got a bit more of the endomorph in them. So they've got a little bit more like thicker joints, a little bit more muscle and fat tissue. And then personality-wise, they're represented by the puppy dog. And so what this looks like, the connector, even that word, they love people. So these are the like prime extroverts. They love being around people. They love connections. They love talking. They love, often loud environments. And again, as I share this, not everyone is like 100% this way. It's just like common traits that connectors have. People are really important. So I find it really interesting when during COVID, these are the people that I found struggled more than other people, because people and being around others is really important to connectors for their health. And this is the key. It's about health and happiness. And if we don't give ourselves what we need, then we struggle. And
so, for example, Jazz, sending, if you're going to create an exercise or fitness program for a connector, asking them to go to the gym and run on a treadmill for 20 or 40 minutes is going to sound really horrible, because these are the kind of people that need to be, for example, in a group fitness class of some sort, yoga, HIIT, I don't know, whatever. But, if the program says, hey, go for a nice long 3-kilometer run, they're going, no, thank you, not happening. And, they fail their program, right? Or they might start it, but just can't sustain it. Yeah.
And this is it. This is the key. And, as a health professional and trainers, it's really up to us to really know our clients and give them what they need rather than what we think. So, yeah, do not give a connector a treadmill for an hour. No. Variety, people, change, very important. Yeah.
And so I could see this really drilling down to the epigenetic level. So we're starting at a really generalized kind of body shape, divided into 3. And then that gets divided down further through personality. And then that gets then divided down again using those measurements and, eye color, what your hair is like, skin, quite a lot of other features down into that real individual level. So now we're really breaking through all those generalizations into very detailed specifics of what that person is going to need, to succeed.
That's right. Absolutely, yeah. And I can even speak into, like, you can see in this circle, there's numbers. And each number sort of represents, at least in the background, it actually represents a lot. It makes me think about what this kind of person will be going through. But nevertheless, no 2 profiles are the same. If I got 2 people at a 150 and they've looked at their profiles, they could be completely different. And not just completely different. What's really interesting is that the study of epigenetics is constantly changing. It's the idea that in this moment, you're completely different to how you were 5 seconds ago. Like, we're totally always changing. So when I see clients and we do the measurements and we get their profile, they might come out with a certain profile, right? And then we start to implement changes and we remeasure in 4 weeks. And in 4 weeks' time, their recommendations, usually really seen in the food aspect, can really change. So in 4 weeks, your recommendations can really change. And that's a really cool thing, that your recommendations are constantly changing as you change.
So, Jez, tell us a little bit about your personal experience with your body type and PH360 and how it's, made the changes that you wanted to see in your life.
Yeah, great. So when I discovered PH360 in the world of personalized health and epigenetics, I was what I would consider very unaligned to my profile and, what was good for me. So for example, I'm a diplomat, so a later chronobiology. So I skew more into the later, into the day. And what I was doing was I was started work at 6. So I'd be up at 5 and finishing at 3. I was eating pretty much as soon as I got up. And I was often trying to exercise in the morning. All of these are not recommended for diplomats. So what I found really interesting, because my background is in ex-phys, was there's a lot of data and recommendations to do morning exercise. both for two main reasons. One, because it's great for fat burning, and two, the biggest reason is that you're more likely to stick long-term with exercise if you do it in the morning rather than in the afternoon. And most people can vouch for this. It's, you know, in the afternoon you can come up with a million excuses, etc. Anyway, so I had it in my head that I needed to do morning exercise like my whole, you know, life until I discovered this. And the fact of the matter is that I hated it. I really, really hated it. I would try and do it, and I would try and stick to it for like, maybe I'd get to about 2 weeks and then I'd just give up. And, you know, as a health professional, it's kind of disheartening. It's like, what's wrong with me? Why is this so difficult? I'm an exercise physiologist. It shouldn't be that hard to exercise, and, you know, but it was. And then I discovered this and I was like, oh my goodness, this is amazing. And it recommended not to do morning exercise. Not only that, but to actually take the mornings really slow. So I implemented a couple of tidbits. So when I was working, I made a decision not to call anyone or do anything stressful before 10 a.m., which was recommended in my profile, to just take the morning quite slow. And I was like, well, I can't do that because I have to start work at 6. However, I could make sure that I don't have any meetings, don't put any clients that I find really stressful in the morning, don't do any paperwork, just don't do anything, just like do my job, be calm. And it made such a huge difference.
So, Jazz, talk to me a little bit about the stresses of daily living. So, for example, you know, a lot of us have, for example, maybe 9 to 5 jobs. You know, certain things have to be done at certain times. We can't always do what we want to do, which maybe my body says I need to rest, or my body says I need to eat now, and I can't because, you know, ... I have a client, my lunch break is scheduled for this time, and that's not the time I'm meant to be eating. You know, I know my body needs to rest, but I'm seeing clients at that time. Talk to me a bit about that and how this wheel, the PH360 program, can help me align myself with what I'm meant to be doing, so I've got some good health outcomes.
Yeah, great. This is really common when, you know, clients come to me and they get their profile for the first time. It states all of these things, and sometimes it's such a shock because they're like, I can't do that. Saying to eat at this time, saying to exercise at that time, it just doesn't work. And that's really common, and there's nothing wrong. So when I see a client, it's just about implementing change where possible. And it's amazing what we can do, like when we start like brainstorming and thinking about where we can change and shift things, what can actually be done. And like my own story in regards to, I started work at 6 a.m., which is not ideal for diplomats like my health type. But this is my life. I'm not just going to quit my job. That's not going to work. So it's said to take my mornings calm and slow. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm at work, so I can't just like, you know, sit in my garden and drink tea. What can I do to get as close to the recommendation as I can, and still, you know, keep up with my life and, you know, the commitments that I have. So I took out all of the stressful things that I could, and just did the bare minimum that worked, so I could still work and be there for my clients, but I still got to experience my nervous system, all the stresses going through my body were at a minimum, and that makes all the difference. So yeah, it's just about implementing the change where possible, and
those little modifications, Jazz, what changes are we talking about? Like, what happened once you made those like slight modifications?
Yeah, great. Two main things happened. One, I started having almost a sense of control. You could call it sort of happiness, satisfaction, but I remember actually enjoying my work a lot more, and it had this, like, I was like in control of my day rather than it sort of spinning out and being so unaligned and not realizing. So I had this sense of control and satisfaction in my work that I didn't have before. And then the other thing was I lost weight, and I'd just come back. I think I'd come back from overseas 2 years before that, and I went to Italy amongst many places and put on a good 5 kilos, and I just couldn't like seem to shift it. And then it all just left. It's gone.
Okay.
So
So, Jazz, this is really intimate knowledge that I think could have, some really good effects on the people around you, the people that live in your household, and the community in general. So, tell me a little bit about how knowing yourself,
Oof.
going to make changes for everyone else.
Yes, I love this. This is when you start to really see the bigger picture. So it's not just about us, as much as it is when we start looking into the community and the people around us, what a difference it can make. So this can be from your, prime relationship, just understanding your partner and how they function. So many things that might have triggered you or frustrated you before. When you understand their biology and what makes them tick, it's incredible just how much ease and understanding and space that you can give people from that knowledge. So I use my sister as a really good example. She bangs on about this constantly and shares it with everyone because it's made such a difference to her relationship with her husband. Just knowing that, he just functions differently. And it's just, it made such a difference to her. And then, so there's the relationship part. When we understand what other people need, we stop like telling them to be different or needing them to be different, and we just really accept them for who they are. It's so exciting. Even PA360 is doing so much work in schools. This is a whole other element when we're actually treating our children differently. So I just want to give an example. Like if we have an activated child, right? Yeah. Activated kids or mesomorphs are generally a lot more active. They've got a lot more like hormones going through their bodies that just want them to be, they want to be moving, they want variety, change. Just imagine that in a classroom, right? You could say these are the kids that are just like hassling everyone, all of that. You just want them to sit still kind of thing. So if we can start like understanding like even little kids better and giving them what they want, it would just change humanity, communities, everything, our relationships with each other when we know what each other need and require to be fulfilled and happy and healthy.
Yeah, so I gave my my profile to my husband to read.
Yes,
and
I love that.
I know, because I read it and I've gone, I know. But then because I've asked for his support in this, and
Yes.
he'll do some cooking. Instead of having him feeling a bit powerless, like we would usually like have kale and broccoli and whatever else for dinner, and now I'm sitting there going, can't cook kale, you can't make broccoli, and he's like, well, what do I do? Like, I don't know what to cook. And so I gave him that profile to explain, what was going on and why. But
Yes.
because it also went past the food and went into a bit of personality, he's just sitting there going, mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think there's been some times where he's been a little bit too scared to approach me on things. And like, despite me trying to say, hey, I don't really function well after 8 p.m. I'm better off in the morning. Can you not try to have a really detailed conversation with me of an evening?
Yes.
That's exactly what he wants to do. As soon as I'm trying to go to bed at 10 p.m., he wants to tell me about his day and tell me everything that's going on. And I'm like, nope, no, don't want to hear it. So having that information for him, he's finally, I think the penny really just dropped.
Yes.
Like, oh, okay.
It's so brilliant. So brilliant. It is. It's like a conversation starter, like these places that we weren't communicating around. All of a sudden, it's just a place to open up. And
I know, but it was that penny just dropped, because I've been sort of trying to say to him for a very long time. We've been together for 26 years. So we've been in a very long-term relationship and had to work a lot of this stuff out just through trial and error. And I've been saying to him, look, I'm a morning person. I know that you're an evening person. Can we catch up like, at dinner time or something when we're both sort of in that space? But it just doesn't seem to click. And now the penny's dropped, which is just brilliant. So he's just like, good night. And then anything he needs to chat about, and he'll just like, well, we'll just do it at dinner time, or he'll catch me in the morning. Oh, wow. So not morning for him. You'll catch me about afternoon time sometime.
That is brilliant.
Why is epigenetics the way forward, as opposed to all the programs that people have tried before, like Jenny Craig, CSIRO diet, Weight Watchers, replacement meals, replacement shakes. What is it about this that is going to make lasting change?
So good. Look, it's the personalization piece. You just can't get away from it. It's really, we are all so beautifully unique and individual. And the thing is it's 2023. We have the technology, we have the science that can give you such accurate and precise recommendations that are for you. It's almost a no-brainer. Why would you keep doing something that's more generalized and not honing into what exactly you need at this moment in time? And, when you get into this world and you start discovering what is available, you just never want to go back. It's just so personalized. It's so unique. It's so self-affirming. It's just brilliant.
Okay, so Jazz, so we've talked about epigenetics. We've talked about the P360 tool, personality types, body types, but you know what? This is all great information. But the one thing I want when I'm wanting to work with somebody is I want someone to honestly just care about me, to coach me, understand my uniqueness, my struggles, what's going on for me. So how does a coach, how does someone like you bring all this together and make it a success?
So yeah, I understand your uniqueness, what makes you different. And that key piece changes everything. You're completely individualized. And as a coach, the really cool thing about, having this lens, I call it like a lens, this personalized health lens, is I treat you how you need to be treated or want to be treated. I motivate you in a way that speaks to you, that works for you, and it makes all the difference so that you actually get the results that you want. So I will take you through the platform and your recommendations and actually almost be the bridge between, data, hard data, and actually bringing into life and form, because that piece is often missing. And it's like the personable aspect. People, we need support sometimes, we need accountability, we need someone who has the background knowledge to draw out that information and recommend things that are going to work. Now, I call it like bang for buck. Everyone has certain aspects that are going to give them the biggest outcome to start with. So yeah, I'm that piece that will get you the best outcomes and draw from that information what you need to do to be successful and have this program work.
Jazz, if I'm looking to align my epigenetics with my lifestyle, what would be your top 3 tips?
Yeah, great. Number 1 would be getting adequate sleep, and sleep for your chronobiology. Everyone's a little bit different. 2 would be movement, getting adequate movement through your body every day. And 3rd would be, it really is food. Having nutrition that is clean and simple. And again, health tips are challenging because it's all about the individual piece. So eating the nutrition that's right for you make all the difference.
Yeah, awesome. All right. Thanks, Jess. Jess is going to be doing some work with us in the future. So look out for some more posts and a workshop coming up. And I think this is going to be really great for our community. I just think I think this is the missing piece. I think this is the link that people didn't know maybe they were looking for, but just couldn't figure out why what they've already tried was either working for a little bit, but not working long term. This is going to be, watch this space, I think.
Awesome. Yes.
All right. So thanks for joining us, Jess. And we will chat very soon.
Great. Thank you for having me. Look forward to it.
All right. See you soon.
by going in, clear the noise, by going through the feelings. You'll make it out by going